Nuya, Ostoagoa, Ostoagoa. The Wahont days, the Wahont days. Odehodoni, Odehodoni. Gastoa, Gastoa. Adoa, Adoa. Ganeho, Ganeho. The Wahont days on Wahont, the Wahont days on Wahont. Ganoses, Ganoses. Ojigwa, Ojigwa. Jihsondahk, Jihsondahk. Oyahgri, Oyahgri. Odeka, Odeka. Genyohonyo, Genyohonyo.
Ojigwa.
A long time ago, after the introduction of the 4 sacred ceremonies, came the story of the 7 dancers. There was a Haudenosaunee village preparing to begin their Midwinter ceremonies. The people were cooking food, cutting wood, and preparing their songs and speeches for the first big day. In the village there was a group of children who always wanted to learn the songs, dances, and speeches connected to the 4 sacred ceremonies. They would hear their parents and the elders talk about and practice all that went on during Midwinter ceremonies. It was the 5 sleep after the first new moon of the new year, and Ostoagoa was about to begin. One of the children asked their mother if they could help her prepare food for the ceremony, and the mother yelled at her to get out of the way, as she said she was busy and that this was way too important for the child to be interfering. Another boy was asking his father about what songs he was going to sing for the big feather dance, and his father yelled at him, "Get out of the way! This is very important and I need to concentrate on the order of the songs." The boy put his head down and left his father alone. Another boy had woken up very early that morning and killed his first Dewahont days with his bow and arrow, and he wanted to donate it to the Midwinter ceremony. So he rushed in to tell his parents and asked his father how he should begin to clean the animal. His parents yelled at him to never mind the deer and told him to go and ask his older brother because they were too busy preparing the meat for the ceremony that day. This was a normal way of life for the children in the village. Whenever the ceremonies were happening, the parents would ignore the children and get cross with them. They felt the ceremonies were too important at that time to spend with the children. A group of children were outside of the village feeling sad, and they all told their story of what happened that morning to each other. One of the children said, "Why don't we go into the Odehadoni and have our own ceremony for midwinters?" All of the children agreed. The children went home and told their parents what they were going to do, but the parents were so busy they didn't hear what the children were trying to tell them. The children asked to take a little bit of food with them so they could hand it out to each other at the end of the ceremony, and the parents yelled at them and said, "Do not take any of our food. We have to save it for the ceremony. You can eat later." So the children went into the forest and conducted their own ceremony, giving thanks and asking for the new year to bring everything that the previous year brought, like the plants, foods, animals, medicines, thunders, rains. The boys took their turtle rattles and wore their Indian clothes and Gastoa headdresses. The children danced 3 big feather dances and returned home. The parents didn't even notice that their children were not at the big ceremony at the village. The next day, the children went into the forest and performed the adowa and the ganeho. At the end of the day, the children returned home. Again, the parents had not noticed the children were missing from the ceremony. They were too busy making sure everything went perfect. The children talked that night and agreed they would get up extra early and prepare food for the day. One child said, "I will bring de wahon days owahon. I killed my first deer 2 days ago, and it's been laying outside our ganoses." So the boys prepared the deer and cut up the animal to cook for meat. Another child said, "I have saved some corn flour to make Ojigwa." Another child said, "I have saved some Jihsondahk from the summer, and I can make Oyahgri like we're supposed to." So the children awoke extra early that day and gathered the wood and made odeka to cook the deer meat and mush. They also brought the peach bowl game, and they all brought something to bet against each other. The children made a fire as the sun came up, and one of the children recited the Gayogo. They were all so happy, laughing and smiling and talking about all they had done over the past few days. They prepared the deer meat, the corn mush, and the strawberry juice, and began the day for the peach bowl game. The game ended close to sunset, as there was finally a winning side. They finished with the big feather dance and then ate food. The food tasted so good because they were so hungry and because they prepared the food for themselves. The sun was starting to set, and they were all so happy with the work they had done that the children decided to have one more big feather dance. When the sun finally went down, they could still see because of the big fire they had made. At this time, the parents back at the village were done with their day and had concluded their 4 sacred ceremonies, and they were also happy with the work they had all done. They were wondering where their children were and looked outside of the longhouse. They could see the light and smoke from the fire the children had made, and they could hear singing from the forest. Their parents went into the forest following the light and noise. And as the children were completing the dance, something magical started to happen. They were so happy, and they were all dancing hard and yelling. They all closed their eyes and started to rise up into the air. It felt so amazing that they kept dancing and continued to rise into the air. Parents could see the children rising into the air. One of the parents yelled out one of the children's names. One child said, "Whatever you do, don't look down." But he couldn't help himself, and he looked down because he missed his mother so much because he was being ignored for the past 3 days. Right then, he became a shooting star. The rest of the children danced right up into the heavens and became the 7 dancers, or the Jihsondahk, stars in the sky. This story remains a part of our Haudenosaunee belief system still today. Our midwinter ceremonies start 5 sleeps after the first new moon of the new year. At that time, you can look up into the sky and see a cluster of stars called Pleiades, also known as the Haudenosaunee as the Seven Dancers, directly over the middle of the sky. The moral of this story is for the parents to treasure the children and to teach them all that they can, because the children are precious and they are our future, to make sure the 4 ceremonies continue forever.